A Treatise of Satan's Temptations. Part 2. By Richard Gilpin. A Discourse of the Malice, Power, Cruelty and Diligence of Satan. Sixth part of Chapter 1. That it is Satan's grand design to corrupt the minds of men with error, the evidences that it is so, and the reasons of his endeavors that way. If any object that many false teachers appeared in the shape of seeming holiness and strictness of life, they may be answered from Christ's own words. For there he tells us, to avoid mistakes, that their first appearance, and it may be the whole lives of some of the first seedsmen of any error, is under the form of sanctity. They come to you in sheep's clothing, in an outward appearance of innocency and plausible pretenses. But then he adds, that their fruits afterward will discover them. A tree at its first planting is not discovered what it is, but give it time to grow to its proper fruitfulness, and then you may know of what kind it is. So that we need not affirm that damnable doctrines produce wicked lives in all that entertain them, at the very first. It is enough for discovery if there be a natural consequential tendency, in such doctrines to practical impieties, or that at last they produce them, though not in all, yet in many. And that this matter hath been always found to be so, all history doth confirm. Such there were in the apostles' days, as is evident by their complaints. Such there were in the church of Pergamus, Revelations 2:14, thou hast them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. There were also the Nicolaitans, of whom Christ declares his abhorrency, verse 15. In the church of Thyatira there was the woman Jezebel, who taught and seduced many of the church to the like abominable doctrines and practices, verse 20. Besides these, the apostle John was troubled with the abominable Gnostics, and the filthy Carpocratians, who taught that men must sin and do the will of all the devils, or else they could not evade principalities and powers, who would no otherwise be pleased to suffer them to escape to the superior heavens. Of these men and their licentious doctrine doth he speak, 1 John 3. 6, that they that are born of God indeed, must not, dare not, cannot give themselves up to a liberty in such abominations. The same fruits of corrupt doctrine appeared after the apostles' days. What was Montanus, but an impure wretch? What were his two companion prophetesses, Priscilla and Maximilla, but infamous adulteresses? The Priscillianists, the Manichees, and abundance more, left the stink of their profaneness behind them, by reason of whom, according to Peter's prophecy, 2 Peter 2:2, the way of truth was evil spoken of. Later times have also given in full evidence of this truth. How shameful and abominable were the lives of John of Leyden, and the rest of those German enthusiasts. Who reads the story of Hackett and Coppinger, without detestation of their wicked practices? What better have the familists and libertines of New and Old England been? Some were turned off to highest ranting, in all profaneness of swearing, drinking, adultery, and the defying of a godly life. And this, under the unreasonable boast of spirit and perfection. The heavens may blush and the earth be astonished at these things. But in the meantime Satan hugs himself in his success, and encourageth himself to further attempts in propagating error, seeing it brings in so great a harvest of sin. 8. Eighthly, in this design of false doctrine Satan is never altogether out. If he cannot thus defile their lives, yet it is 1,000 to 1 but he obstructs their graces by it. What greater hindrance can there be to conversion than error? The word of truth is the means by which God, through his Spirit, doth beget us. It is part of that image of God that is implanted in us, it is God's voice to the soul to awaken it. It cannot then be imagined, that God will give the honor of that work to any error. Neither can truth take place or have its effect upon a soul forestalled with a contrary falsehood. Falsehood in possession will keep truth at the door. Neither is conversion only hindered by such errors, as directly contradict converting truths, but also by collateral non-fundamental errors. As they fill the minds of men with prejudice, against those that profess another persuasion, so that for their own beloved error's sake, men will not entertain a warning or conviction, from those that dissent from their opinions. They first account them enemies, and then they despise their message. It is no small matter in Satan's way to have such an obstruction at hand in the grand concern of conversion. Yet this is further serviceable to him, to hinder or weaken the graces of the converted already. If he can set God's children aiming upon error, or make them fond of novelties, he will by this means exhaust the vigor and strength of their hearts, so that the substantials of religion will be neglected. For as hurtful plants engross all the moisture and fatness of the earth where they stand, and impoverish it into an inability for the nourishment of those that are of greater worth, so doth error possess itself of the strength of the Spirit, and in the meantime, neglected graces dwindle into emptiness, and fade as a leaf. The most curious questions and opinions that contribute nothing to the establishment of the heart. It is only grace that doth that. Hebrews 13:9, the heart is established with grace, and not with disputes about meats. Nay, they do grace a prejudice, in that they make it sick and languishing, for to that sense is the original, in 1 Timothy 6:4, doting about questions, or growing diseased, because of the earnest prosecution of opinions, nu omicron sigma nu pi epsilon rho zeta eta tau sigma epsilon iota sigma. 9. Ninthly, error hath yet another mischief in it, which makes it not a little desirable to Satan. And that is the judgment or punishment that it brings. So that it every way answers the devil's hatred against both soul and body. The blessings of prosperity and peace do attend the triumphal chariot of truth, Psalms 85:11, 12, truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. And then it follows, that the Lord shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. But on the contrary, error doth more provoke God than men are aware. How often did God desolate the Israelites, set a fire in their cities, and gave them into the hands of their enemies, because of their changing the truth of God into a lie, and worshipping and serving the creature more than the Creator. God left not the church of Pergamus and Thyatira without severe threatenings for the error of the Nicolaitans, Revelation 2:16, repent, or else I will come unto thee quickly. Verse 22, I will cast them into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds, and I will kill her children with death. And accordingly God fulfilled his threatening upon them, by bringing in the Saracens to desolate them, and to possess their land, as he also brought the Goths upon the empire for the Arian heresy. How is Satan pleased to labor in a design that will kindle the wrath of the Almighty? Thanks.